Okay, so you know how sometimes you're like right on the tip of your tongue with a word
Oh, yeah.
and then it just like vanishes into thin air?
It's the worst.
Right. Like, where did it go? And then like 2 hours later, it's like, oh, yeah,
Exactly.
that was the word I was thinking of.
Happens all the time.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive on a podcast script about how to remember English vocabulary.
Ooh, good topic.
So it's like how to actually make those words stick, like organize your mental closet.
Yeah, love it. Let's tidy up that brain.
Right. Let's do it.
So the script had this really cool point about how your brain prioritizes information. Like, think about it. You use words like hello and goodbye every day, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
They're just high frequency, essential for like basic
Oh,
communication.
right. So those are always front and center.
Exactly.
Right.
But what about that, like kind of niche vocabulary that you learn for that one specific project?
Yeah, 3 months ago.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what did those words go?
Gosh, they're probably somewhere in the back of the closet gathering dust.
Right. So the script says that repeating words over and over isn't actually that effective.
Really?
Yeah, it can be kind of like trying to force a square peg in a round hole.
So ditch the flashcards.
Yeah, pretty much. You're not creating those meaningful connections.
Okay, so then what's the alternative? What do we do?
Well, the script says to try creating personal connections with new words.
Oh, okay.
So, like, take the word hilarious, right?
Okay.
Instead of just memorizing the dictionary definition, try to tie it to a memory that genuinely made you laugh out loud, like maybe a friend's terrible joke
Oh, yeah.
or like a scene from a movie or something.
Right. Like really tie it to that feeling.
Exactly. And then suddenly, hilarious isn't just this word, it's an experience. You actually remember it.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like you're adding an emotional sticky note to it that says like, remember this, it was hilarious.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
So what else does the script say?
Well, it also talks about taking this a step further with visualization.
Ooh.
So say you're trying to remember the word serene, right?
Mhm.
Instead of just repeating it, picture yourself on a quiet beach. You can hear the waves, It's peaceful.
Oh, yeah.
So you're not just memorizing a definition, you're creating like a whole sensory experience. You can practically feel the sand between your toes.
Right. Like you're actually there.
Exactly. So much more engaging than staring at a list of words.
Yeah. A lot more fun.
And speaking of engaging, the script talks about this technique called active recall.
Active recall. Okay, I'm listening. What is that?
Well, instead of like passively reading definitions,
Right.
active recall challenges you to try and retrieve that information from your memory.
Oh, so like it's more about action rather than just absorption.
Yeah, exactly. It's like giving your brain a mental workout.
Okay, I like it. So how would we actually do that?
Okay, so let's say you've got that list of new words, right? Instead of just reading through it, cover up the definitions and try to recall them from memory.
Ooh, okay.
And if you're struggling, which you probably will,
Probably.
take a peek and then try again a little later.
Okay, so it's almost like playing a game with yourself.
Right. It's like mental hide and seek with those vocabulary words.
I like it. That makes a lot of sense.
And then it leads into this other point the script brings up, learning words in context.
Okay, in context.
Yeah. So instead of just memorizing definitions,
Right.
try to encounter them in the real world, like in books, articles, conversations, whatever.
Gotcha. Ditch the vocab lists, get out there and actually use them.
Exactly. It's like, remember that example, persuasive from the script?
Oh, yeah.
So instead of just learning the definition,
Mm-hmm.
imagine hearing it in like a really powerful speech that changes someone's mind. Like you're not just learning the word, you're seeing it in action.
Yeah, that's a great point. It gives it so much more weight.
Right. You're not just memorizing, you're experiencing it.
Okay, so now it's feeling less like a classroom thing and more like an actual strategy.
Exactly. And that brings us to another key point the script highlights spaced repetition.
Ooh, I've heard of that, but I don't really know what it is. What is that?
Well, think of it like a strategic review schedule for your vocabulary. Instead of cramming everything all at once, you space out your review sessions over time.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so you're not overwhelming your brain.
Right, like giving your brain a break.
Exactly. And there's actually a science behind it.
Really?
Yeah, so by revisiting words just as you're about to forget them, you actually strengthen the neural pathways, and it helps move those words from your short-term memory to your long-term memory.
Oh, that's cool. So it's like giving your brain a reminder to keep those words top of mind.
Exactly. And you can use apps like Anki or Quizlet, but even just a simple notebook works wonders.
Oh, really? Just write them down.
Yeah, just jot down the words, their definitions, and then schedule your review sessions. space them out increasingly over time.
Oh, I can actually see myself doing that.
Right. It's not as intimidating as it sounds.
Totally. And you can go at your own pace, which is nice.
Exactly. You're in control.
I like it. So, before we get too deep into spaced repetition, I think it's worth talking about this fear a lot of people have, which is using new words in conversation.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's like, I don't know, you're scared to sound awkward or make mistakes.
Totally. It can be really intimidating.
Yeah, what does this strip say about that? Like, how do you get over that?
Well, it basically encourages people to shift their perspective. So instead of seeing mistakes as failures,
Right.
see them as opportunities to grow.
Well,
Like every time you stumble over a word, you're actually learning something.
right. It's like you're getting real-time feedback.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of just using those words. Like, find a language partner, join a group, or even just talk to yourself in the mirror.
It's true.
Yeah.
You got to practice.
Yeah. It might feel silly at first, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll become.
So it's about building that fluency.
Exactly. Language learning is a journey, not a destination.
Love that.
There will always be new words to learn, but the more you engage, the more fun it becomes.
So true. Okay, so we've got all these techniques now, like connecting words to personal experiences, visualizing, active recall, learning in context, and spaced repetition. But how do we, bring it all together?
Well, that's where the script's final challenge comes in.
Okay, tell me more.
It basically encourages people to choose 5 new words, any words, as long as they're interesting to you, and then put these techniques into practice.
Got it.
Don't just read the definitions, make them your own.
Right.
Create personal connections, those mental images, you know.
Visualize it.
Yeah, and then practice active recall and use those words in real conversations.
So it's about really taking action and making them part of your vocabulary.
Exactly. And the best part is you can tailor these techniques to how you learn best.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Everyone's different.
Right. Some people like visuals, others prefer listening. Just experiment and see what works.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Exactly. It's about finding what clicks for you.
I like that. And remember, the goal isn't to be perfect. It's to make progress.
Right. Don't get discouraged if you forget a word or make a mistake.
Totally.
Just keep practicing.
Just keep going.
Yeah. You'll be amazed by how much your vocabulary grows.
This is making me want to go out and find some new words to learn.
Me too.
Before we do that, though, I think it's worth zooming out a bit.
Yeah.
How do all of these vocabulary strategies connect to the bigger picture of language learning?
That's a great question. It's easy to get caught up in the individual words and forget about the overall goal.
Right, which is communication.
Exactly. So, how do we use these strategies to become better communicators?
Yeah, that's the real question, right? It's not just about knowing a bunch of fancy words. It's about using them well.
Yeah. It's about fluency, being able to express yourself, tell stories, articulate your thoughts, all that.
It's like taking it to the next level.
Right. Moving beyond just basic communication to true fluency.
I love that. Okay, so as we wrap up this first part of our deep dive, let's boil everything down to some action steps for our listeners.
Okay. Love it.
Where should they start?
Well, that challenge from the script is a great starting point. Choose those 5 words, any words that are interesting to you, and commit to practicing these techniques.
Yeah.
Really make those words your own.
Right.
And then don't just read the definitions. Create those connections, build those images in your mind.
Visualize.
Yes.
Yeah.
And use those words in real-life conversations.
Get out there and practice.
Yeah. And remember, be consistent.
Okay.
Don't cram. Make it a regular habit. Even a few minutes a day can make a big difference.
Small steps lead to big results.
Exactly. And most importantly, have fun.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Learning should be enjoyable, not a chore.
Totally.
So explore those new words, play around with different techniques, and celebrate all the progress you make.
This has been such a great discussion.
I agree.
I feel like I've learned so much, not just about vocabulary, but about language learning in general.
Yeah, me too. It's about so much more than just memorizing words.
It really is. It's about making those words work for you.
Absolutely.
So to all our listeners out there, we encourage you to take on that challenge. Go forth and conquer those words.
Yes.
We'd love to hear all about your experiences. What techniques do you use? Tell us in the comments.
We'd love to hear from you.
Until next time, happy learning, everyone.
Happy learning. Yeah, it seems like all these things, like connecting the words to something personal, the visualizations, active recall, all that,
Right.
they all push us to actually use the language, not just try and memorize it.
Yeah, it's not about having these words trapped in a notebook somewhere.
Right, exactly.
It's about actually like getting them out there in the world.
It is. Think of it like vocabulary is like building blocks, right? You
Yeah.
can have the coolest blocks ever,
Yeah.
but if you don't actually build something with them, what's the point?
Yeah, they're useless just sitting there.
Exactly. So, like, mastering vocabulary isn't about just knowing all these fancy words.
Right.
It's about being able to use those words to express yourself, to tell a good story, to get your ideas across clearly.
Yeah, it's like you're building a whole toolkit.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
moving beyond just basic communication and getting to real fluency,
Yeah.
being able to really use the language.
Okay, that's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
Like we're leveling up our communication skills.
Yeah, totally.
This deep dive has been really eye-opening, I feel like. I'm not just getting vocabulary techniques, but like a whole new approach to learning a language.
I think so too.
It's really cool.
I agree.
So to wrap up this part, let's just recap everything we've learned and give our listeners some clear action steps.
Sounds good.
Where should they start?
I think that challenge in the script is a really good place to start. Pick 5 words, whatever interests you,
Okay.
and commit to using those techniques.
Gotcha.
Really make those words yours. Don't just passively read the definitions.
Right, right.
Create connections, build those pictures in your mind.
Mm-hmm. Visual.
Yes. And then the most important part, use the words, have real conversations.
Yeah, practice, practice, practice.
Exactly. Consistency is key.
Right.
Don't try to do it all at once.
Little by little.
Yeah. Make it a habit.
Even just for like 5 minutes a day.
Exactly. 5 minutes. That's all it takes.
And it can make a huge difference.
Huge. And I think most importantly, have fun with it.
Oh, yeah.
Don't make it a chore.
It should be enjoyable.
Exactly. Explore new words, try out different techniques.
Play around with it.
Yes. And then celebrate the progress that you make.
I love that.
It's a journey. It's supposed to be fun.
This deep dive has been so insightful.
I agree.
I feel like I've not only learned these vocabulary techniques, but I've also kind of shifted my whole view of language learning.
Yeah, me too.
It's pretty cool.
It is. It's really about so much more than just memorizing.
Exactly. It's about making those words work for you, making them part of your life.
Totally. And remember, there are so many words out there.
I know, it's a little overwhelming.
It can be. But that's the beauty of it. There's always something new to learn.
That's a good way to look at it.
Right. So keep exploring, keep learning,
I like it.
have fun with it.
Okay, so on that note, it's time to wrap up this second part of our deep dive. But we'll be back soon with part 3
Can't wait.
to dive even deeper into these awesome strategies for remembering English vocabulary.
Sounds good.
It's like all these techniques we've talked about, they're kind of pushing us to actually use the language,
yeah.
not just memorize it.
Exactly. It's not about just having all these words, stored away somewhere.
Right, yeah, like what's the point if you can't actually use them?
It's like having all these ingredients, but never making a meal.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, like vocabulary is the ingredients and communication is the dish you're trying to make.
Okay, so mastering vocabulary, it's not about being a walking dictionary, right?
Right.
It's about being able to use the right words at the right time to actually communicate.
Totally. It's about being able to express yourself clearly, tell stories that captivate people, really articulate your ideas.
Yeah, like being able to actually use those words to do something.
Exactly. And that takes practice.
It does, yeah.
But that's how you get to true fluency, being able to move beyond just the basics.
It's like taking those ingredients and becoming a chef.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
This deep dive has been amazing.
Oh.
I honestly feel like I've not only learned about vocabulary, but also like just about learning in general.
Me too. Yeah. It's given me a whole new perspective on language learning.
It's really exciting, actually. So to wrap up, let's crystallize everything into some key actions for our listeners. Like, what's the one thing they should do right now?
Okay, well, that challenge in the script, it's a really good starting point. Pick those 5 words, anything that sparks your interest,
Okay,
and then commit to using those techniques we talked about.
gotcha.
Really immerse yourself in those words.
Right, make them your own.
Exactly. Create those connections, those mental images, visualize. Yeah.
And most importantly, use those words. Have conversations.
Get out there and practice.
Exactly. And remember, don't cram. Be consistent, little by little.
Even just a few minutes a day.
Yeah, exactly. That's all it takes.
Okay, so consistency is key.
Yeah.
What else?
Have fun with it. Learning shouldn't feel like a chore.
Oh, for sure. It should be exciting.
Exactly. Play with language, experiment with different techniques,
Mm,
and celebrate your progress.
it's a journey, right?
Exactly. And it's
Okay.
one worth taking. There are so many words out there to discover.
So much to learn.
Exactly. So never stop exploring.
Okay, so on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into remembering English vocabulary.
This was fun.
It was. A huge thank you to all our listeners for joining us. We hope you walk away feeling energized and equipped to conquer new words.
Yes, go out there and make those words your own.
And remember,